Hello, my friends. Welcome back to SBS English Podcast. Let's practice English together, step by step. Tom sat at his desk, staring at his reflection in the computer screen. Today was his first job interview in English, and even though he had studied grammar and vocabulary for months, his stomach twisted into knots. He felt nervous and worried that he might freeze when the interviewer asked a question he wasn't prepared for. This is a situation that many English learners face. It is normal to feel confident when practicing alone, but real conversations can trigger fear and anxiety. This fear is what makes so many students freeze or stumble over words during interviews. In this video, we are going to help Tom and you overcome that fear. You will learn simple and effective phrases to introduce yourself and respond to common interview questions. We will use shadowing practice, which is a powerful technique where you listen, repeat, and then speak naturally. This method trains your brain to recall words automatically, so you can speak with confidence, even under pressure. By the end of the lesson, you will see that consistent, focused practice can turn fear into confidence. One of the most common mistakes beginners make is trying to translate their thoughts word by word from their native language into English. This slows down speech and increases anxiety. Tom had memorized phrases like, "I have experience in sales," or "I am a fast learner." But when the interviewer asked, "Can you tell me about a challenge you overcame at work?" he froze. This freeze response happens because the brain is trying to plan the perfect sentence while also managing nerves. The key is not perfection. The key is communication. Even a simple, slightly imperfect answer is far better than silence. A very practical technique to overcome this is speaking slowly and using pauses. Pauses give your brain extra time to form sentences and make you sound more confident. For example, instead of rushing, Tom could say, "One challenge I faced was managing a large project with a very tight deadline. I communicated with my team, and we finished on time." These small pauses make speech sound natural and composed, even if you are still thinking about what to say next. Before the interview, Tom also practiced mini dialogues using the 3-step shadowing method. First, listening to a model answer, then repeating it, and finally improvising his own version. This practice trains your brain to recall useful phrases automatically, which dramatically reduces the fear of freezing. Many students, like Tom, worry that their limited English will hold them back, but real stories prove that consistent, mindful practice leads to success. One student, terrified of speaking English, managed to get his first interview after just a few weeks of structured shadowing, and he left the interview feeling proud and confident. Tom took a deep breath and reminded himself that it was okay not to have a perfect answer right away. One of the keys to speaking confidently in English is learning how to handle unexpected questions. Often, interviewers ask questions that are not on your prepared list, like, "What motivates you at work?" or "Can you describe a time when you failed?" These questions can feel intimidating, but they are an opportunity to show honesty and clarity rather than perfection. A practical approach is to pause briefly before answering. Pauses are not a sign of weakness. They are a tool to help you organize your thoughts. Tom practiced this by listening to example answers and noticing natural breaks in the speech. For instance, he would listen to a model answer, repeat it aloud, and then try improvising his own response using similar sentence patterns. This 3-step shadowing method builds muscle memory for speaking naturally, even when you feel pressure. Using simple connectors also helps when formulating answers. Words and phrases like, for example, I believe, "One challenge I faced," in my experience, give structure to your sentences and allow you to buy time to think. Tom learned to say, "One challenge I faced was managing a project with a tight deadline. In my experience, clear communication with the team was key, and we finished successfully." Notice how the sentence flows and includes small pauses for natural pacing. Shadowing this kind of response repeatedly trains your brain to respond automatically in real interviews. Another important technique is intonation. Speaking in a flat, monotone voice can make answers sound rehearsed or hesitant. Tom practiced stressing key words, raising his pitch slightly when emphasizing accomplishments and lowering it when describing challenges. This subtle variation signals confidence and makes your speech more engaging. Listening carefully to model answers and repeating them aloud is essential for mastering natural intonation. Tom also learned the power of reframing mistakes. If you forget a word or pause longer than expected, you can simply say, "Let me rephrase that," or "What I mean is." This shows the interviewer that you are aware and proactive, not panicked. He practiced this in shadowing exercises by intentionally leaving gaps and then filling them with these safe phrases. Over time, it became second nature, and his anxiety about freezing began to fade. Finally, Tom visualized the interview before it happened. He imagined himself walking into the room, greeting the interviewer, and using his practiced phrases. Visualization, combined with shadowing practice, strengthened his confidence and reduced the fear of making mistakes. By practicing both the language and the mindset, Tom prepared not only to answer questions, but to present himself calmly and professionally, even if the English wasn't perfect. After practicing pauses and intonation, Tom moved on to mini dialogues. These exercises simulate real interview situations and allow learners to practice in a controlled, low-pressure environment. The idea is simple. First listen, then repeat, and finally improvise. By shadowing these dialogues, Tom trained his brain to respond automatically without overthinking. The first mini dialogue focused on introductions. The interviewer asks, "Can you tell me about yourself?" Tom listened carefully to a model answer. "Hello, my name is Tom. I recently graduated in business administration. I am passionate about teamwork and learning new skills. In my last project, I helped organize a small event and learned a lot about communication and planning." He repeated each sentence slowly, matching the speaker's rhythm and intonation. Finally, he improvised by adding his own details, like hobbies or small accomplishments. Repeating this exercise several times helped Tom feel more comfortable opening any conversation. The next mini dialogue tackled common behavioral questions. The interviewer asks, "Can you describe a challenge you faced at work or school?" The model answer is, "One challenge I faced was managing a group project with a tight deadline. I made sure to communicate clearly with my team and set small goals each week. In the end, we completed the project on time, and I learned how important organization and teamwork are." Tom shadowed this answer, repeating and then improvising his own version. Using connectors like "one challenge I faced," "I made sure," and "in the end," gives structure and helps maintain fluency under pressure. For situational questions, the interviewer might ask, "What would you do if a teammate disagreed with you?" The model response is, "If a teammate disagreed with me, I would first listen to their opinion carefully. I believe it's important to understand different perspectives. Then, I would explain my ideas calmly and try to find a solution that works for everyone." Tom practiced shadowing this sentence by first listening, then repeating aloud, and finally creating his own example from past experiences. These small, practical steps allow learners to feel prepared for a wide range of questions. Shadowing also includes improvisation. Tom sometimes changed details in the dialogue, like project topics or roles, while keeping the sentence patterns intact. This method trains the brain to adapt language in real time instead of memorizing fixed answers. Over several repetitions, he noticed his fear of freezing reduced significantly. He could respond naturally, even when the question was slightly different from the model answer. By the end of the mini dialogue practice, Tom felt more confident. He realized that structured repetition and improvisation are key to overcoming anxiety. Shadowing not only improved his fluency, but also taught him how to think in English during real conversations. The more he practiced, the more automatic his responses became, and the less he worried about mistakes. This combination of listening, repeating, and personalizing answers is the foundation of speaking confidently in interviews. After completing the mini dialogues, Tom reflected on common mistakes he had made during practice. One frequent error is overthinking and trying to produce perfect grammar. Many learners believe that every word must be flawless, but this mindset often leads to hesitation or freezing. Tom reminded himself that clarity and communication are more important than perfection. Shadowing helps with this, because repeated practice builds automatic sentence patterns, reducing the need for constant mental translation. Another error is speaking too quickly. Nervous learners often rush, hoping to finish their answers before they forget what they want to say. However, speaking too fast can create confusion and even increase anxiety. Tom practiced slowing down intentionally, adding natural pauses between ideas. For example, instead of saying, "I managed a project and learned teamwork and communication," he practiced, "I managed a project and learned teamwork and communication." These small pauses not only make speech more understandable, but also give him time to think of the next sentence. Tom also focused on refining intonation. Flat or monotone speech can sound rehearsed or insecure. He practiced raising his pitch slightly when emphasizing key points, lowering it when describing challenges, and using slight variations at the end of sentences to sound natural. By shadowing model answers, he imitated the rhythm and melody of natural English speech. Over time, this made his responses feel less robotic and more confident. Advanced shadowing exercises involved longer, multi-part answers. For instance, the interviewer might ask, "Can you describe a time when you had to handle multiple responsibilities?" Tom practiced a structured response. "In my previous internship, I was responsible for organizing events and maintaining client communications. It was challenging to manage both tasks simultaneously, but I created a schedule and prioritized tasks, which helped me complete everything efficiently." He repeated this answer in 3 stages: first listening, then repeating exactly, and finally improvising with his own details. This method trains learners to handle longer, complex answers without freezing. Tom also rehearsed ways to buy time during interviews. Phrases like, "That's a great question. Let me think." Or I would approach it by, "Give a few seconds to organize thoughts while maintaining professionalism." Shadowing these phrases regularly made them feel natural, so he could use them seamlessly in real interviews. Finally, Tom reviewed the progress he had made. What once felt intimidating now felt manageable. With shadowing, deliberate pauses, structured connectors, and mindful intonation, he was developing real-time fluency. Each practice session strengthened his confidence, proving that fear of speaking English is not permanent. It can be overcome with structured, consistent practice. Tom now knew that mistakes were part of the process, and every small success reinforced his ability to speak clearly and confidently in real interview situations. After weeks of shadowing practice, mini dialogues, and focused preparation, the day of Tom's first job interview arrived. He remembered all the techniques he had practiced: speaking slowly, pausing strategically, using connectors, varying intonation, and improvising responses when needed. Most importantly, he remembered that making mistakes was normal and that communication mattered more than perfection. Tom walked into the interview room feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The interviewer greeted him warmly, and Tom responded naturally, using the phrases he had practiced countless times. When asked, "Can you tell me about a challenge you overcame at work?" he paused briefly, smiled, and delivered his answer confidently. He didn't rush, he didn't panic, and he didn't worry about perfect grammar. He focused on expressing his ideas clearly and authentically. This moment is powerful because it shows that consistent, structured practice transforms fear into confidence. Many learners hesitate to speak English in real situations because they focus too much on mistakes or imagine worst-case scenarios. Tom's story proves that with the right approach, shadowing, mini dialogues, pauses, intonation, and structured connectors, it is possible to speak clearly and effectively, even in stressful situations like a job interview. For those watching, the key takeaway is that learning English is not about memorizing perfect sentences. It's about practicing real communication in realistic contexts. Shadowing helps you internalize patterns, build automatic responses, and gain confidence. Pausing strategically allows your brain to organize thoughts, and intonation makes your speech engaging. Improvisation ensures that you can handle unexpected questions naturally. As Tom finished his interview, he felt proud. He had applied all the techniques he had learned, and he realized that fear no longer controlled his ability to speak. The interviewer smiled and nodded, clearly impressed by his composure and clarity. This experience showed that consistent practice, even with limited English, can lead to real results. Every student who commits to structured practice, like Tom, can overcome the fear of speaking. To continue improving, practice shadowing daily, simulate interviews or real conversations, and gradually increase the complexity of your responses. Remember to pause, breathe, and focus on communication rather than perfection. Celebrate small wins and visualize your success before speaking. Over time, these habits will make you fluent, confident, and ready to face any interview or conversation in English. Tom left the room feeling empowered, knowing that every word he spoke was a step toward mastery. His first job interview was not just a test of English, it was a demonstration of preparation, persistence, and courage. And this is the lesson for all learners. With consistent practice, structured shadowing, and self-belief, speaking English without fear is absolutely achievable.